got David Limbrick from the Liberal Democrats up next.
Thanks, Emily. They told us it's just a mask. It's just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It's just a circuit breaker lockdown. It's just golf, fishing, and scuba diving. It's just restaurants, gyms, and dance studios. It's just Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. It's just a few of our human rights. It's just roads in the sky to keep you safe. It's just singing and dancing by. It's just an act of contact tracing. What a lie. It's just visiting your grandparents. It's just until we get a vaccine. It's just schools. It's just a spike in self-harm presentations. It's just a curfew. It's just a few more months of lockdown. It's just a jab. It's your choice. More lies. It's just playgrounds for children. It's just some less lethal weapons. It's just watching a sunset. It's just mandatory now. You need it to keep your job. And after next week, it's just the ability to target by race, religion, and political beliefs. It's just a two-tier society. It's just permanent powers. It's just the new normal. It's not just. 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 It's not
both of you for all the work you've been doing through this awful time for all Victorians. But I also want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here tonight, because you are taking a stand on what it means to be a citizen, to be a Victorian. You see, you have there with your cameras up, your phones up, spreading the message about what has been going on in this state. It was only 20 months ago that in Victoria we had 500,000 small business families. We had 1.4 million Victorians, just like all of us, that relied upon those small businesses for their living. And then lockdown 1 came. And then lockdown 2 came. And then I started getting phone calls from Small Business Australia from a number of wives telling me that their husbands had killed themselves, that they couldn't go on. This has been a record-setting state performance by the government that we've got. Yeah, Dan Andrews, but it's every Labor politician. They are all in it together. And then there are 3 more. Because for many of us, we haven't paid much attention to how politics works in this state or in this country. We've been able to wake up in the morning, go to work, particularly those of us in small business, employ people, serve our customers, pay our taxes, do our payrolls, be the lifters, do the stuff in the middle class that actually keeps society going. We always hear about small business, it's the economic engine room of the economy. Well, a little bit like that young climate activist, you know, blah, blah, blah. What's more important than that is that small business families are the hearts and souls of their local communities. You think about it. When you were at school and you got work experience, who was it with? It wasn't working in here or working inside a big company, was it? It was with a small business family. Who's sponsoring the local footy club, the local netball club? Who's providing the prizes down there for the school trivia night, the school raffle? Small business families, and they have paid the biggest price of any group of citizens, not just in Victoria, but in Australia, because they've been left to have to fend for themselves. So there's 3 extra people on top of every Labor politician that are sitting in front of this pandemic legislation. Fiona, Andy, and Samantha. FAS. There's a few other letters that come after it for those of you that are students of political systems. Fiona, Andy, and Samantha. Where are they? That's a very good question. Well, apparently Fiona knows much better than a whole bunch of prominent lawyers and QCs about the impact of this upcoming pandemic legislation that she's been involved with. And she has told them in her little letter that no, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, one of the things I keep asking is, why do we need more power? Why do they need more power given their success over the last 20 months? You know, they've destroyed approximately 100,000 Victorian small businesses. Records have been set, days in lockdown, most strict restrictions, curfews. Go down to the Mornington Peninsula, apparently it's part of Melbourne down there, but not over on the Bellarine Peninsula. There's a bunch of Labor Party seats. No, not part of metropolitan Melbourne. Lowest percentage of small businesses receiving any financial compensation of any state in Victoria. Lowest amount of compensation for those small number that were able to get anything from the government. Highest fines. I was in Rye, down on the Mornington Peninsula. No, I wasn't enjoying the sunset and having the sunset police come in, but there's a new set now. There's a new set of stormtroopers. They're the COVID safety inspectors. Three small businesses in 2 blocks on the Nepean Highway hit with $10,000 fines each. And what for? Because they never had a printed copy of their COVID safe plan displayed inside the front door. Now you would think that the civilised thing to do would be to say, listen, this is a requirement, you haven't done it, let us help you do it. I don't know if any of you have been to a government website and tried to interpret it, tried to get whatever it is that's required put in place. And then of course another record has been set. We've got the highest paid government MPs in the country, the highest paid senior public servants in the country, the biggest pay rises over the last 12 months, extra working from home allowances. Go and talk to the small businesses of the City of Melbourne. We're all in it together. No one's paid a bigger price than small business families, particularly with young school-aged children. But where are all the voices speaking in favour of this legislation that every Labor Party member's voting for and the 3 are voting for? I don't read anything about it in The Age. They're not sort of up there standing up for it. Where's the Civil Liberties Union saying this is magnificent? Right? Where's the ABC talking about it on what a fantastic positive move it is? Where are they? You know, we've never been in it together, and it's not our ABC. It's not our ABC. Let's think about these 3 people, Fiona, Andy, and Samantha. Now I'm in my late 50s, I'm a bit pale, male and stale, but I'm not going to be cancelled. I'm not going to apologise. But I remember listening to AC/DC. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Why is it that the founder of the former Sex Party now the so-called Reason Party, successfully was able to get a deal done to have the majority of legal sex businesses open throughout the majority of the pandemic. Right? We even had the Minister for Health giving us advice in a press conference on how to interact in a COVID-safe way with our legal sex worker. But we were unable to go and see our very sick elderly parents or hold the hands of members of our family that may have been dying. Let me tell you a bit about Fiona and Andy and this very dodgy system we have for the way people get elected in the upper house. Andy got 2.5% of people voting for him. Andy, 2.5%. Animal Justice Party. Some call them the cat patters, the Animal Justice Party. I've got a cat, I love cats. 2.5%. Now you would think that Fiona would have much more than 2.5%, but no, 1.4% of Victorians put down that party first. Now these are, I'm not going to talk about Samantha because she's a Green and it's enough said, right? We know it basically means throwing in a bit of yellow with red and it's sort of a bit out there on the fringe of the Labor Party, right? We're not going to talk about her, right? But Fiona and Andy, everyone here and everyone you know, they are the two people. Just one of them needs to vote against this pandemic legislation because they don't need more power, they've got too much power now. I encourage you all to go over to the site votethemout.com.au. It gives you the action plan, what you can do. You don't have to feel powerless. You're out here tonight, there's other things you can do. But rest assured, if those three, particularly Fiona or Andy, if they vote in this legislation, we will vote them out. Vote them out! Vote them out! Vote them out! Vote them out!
Thank you, Bill. And our next guest speaker is one of the MPs who had their speech in regards to this bill in the lower house go viral. And in that, he mentioned that he would be taking to the streets. So here he is, Ryan Smith.
G'day everyone, thank you for coming out tonight, and I know we're here for a number of different reasons. I think the reasons are that we're frustrated, we're angry, but most of all we're tired. We're tired after 2 years of seeing our local businesses close. You won't have to walk down the street to see so many police signs and empty shops. We're tired of seeing our kids' mental health and well-being decline through 250 days out of school at home, watching screens, not getting the education that our kids deserve. We're tired of being told when we can and can't work. We're tired of being told where we can go, when we can go there and how long we can go there for. We're absolutely tired of it. We're tired of the division that our Premier has created amongst Victorians. A two-tier society where we have neighbours yelling at other neighbours because they're not wearing a mask in an open playground or even being in a playground. We're tired of having our Premier speak down to us, badgering us, lecturing us, telling it's your fault that we've got these transmissions, not his for not managing it properly. Now we all know that COVID's been tough right around the world. We all know that leaders have made mistakes. We all know that there's been significant challenges, and we would have forgiven, as Australians, our leaders if they had have made mistakes. If the Premier and his ministers had have made mistakes and admitted them, we would have forgiven him. But he never ever took blame for anything. What we wanted from our Premier was just to be a decent bloke during this time. Just to be someone to pull us all together, to give us some hope, give us a ray of light, give us a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what we wanted from our Premier. But we didn't get that. We got the badgering and the hectoring, the speaking down to us. We wanted a decent bloke to lead us. A decent bloke does not turn a blind eye when our kids' mental health is declining. A decent bloke doesn't come out and say, oh, we're going to throw money at that issue. We're going to throw money to fix the kids. Well, he shouldn't have broken them in the first place. A decent bloke would not have seen business after business after business close having them beg for support that was given late. There wasn't enough money for them all. We've got businesses shut, as I said, right down these streets behind you and throughout Melbourne and indeed all through regional Victoria. A decent bloke wouldn't have watched them disappear and go. A decent bloke would not have ignored all of you people. And now he wants to bring in legislation that's going to give him power to do it all again. Harder, faster, with more of a grasp on power than he's ever had before. And he says he's not going to use the provisions. Well, I don't trust him. Do you trust him? Do you trust him? I don't trust him. I don't trust this guy anymore. Victoria, no right-minded Victorian will trust a guy who's let us down again and again and again. And what about those three independents? What about those three independents? Medic, Patton and Ratnam. They reckon they've been negotiating with the government since March. They reckon they've been speaking with the government for 6 months. Now they represent upper house seats. Between them they represent about 1 million Victorians. So they've been speaking to the government since March, but they never spoke to any of you for 6 months. They didn't speak to the people who put them in this place, not once. And they're not speaking to you now. Most of you, or many of you, would have Labor members representing you in your seat. Did they speak to you? I reckon half of them haven't even read the bill. They don't even know what's in it. That's the problem. That's your representation in this place. And as David said, next November, the only way we're going to get rid of this guy is change the government. My pledge to you, David's pledge to you, is if we're in government, we'll repeal this bill, because no government should have this much power. No government of any sort. No other state needs this law. No other state has asked for this law. We don't need this law. Daniel Andrews, enough is enough.
Thank you guys, and thank you Ryan for that speech. Now the next guest we have up is someone who has been personally affected by what's been going on. Next up we have Krystle. She is a previous member of Victoria Police who quite famously quit live in her interview with the Senator. Daniel Andrews is. I ask my former colleagues, are you going to enforce mandates based on attributes, religious beliefs, political beliefs, age, gender, sexual orientation? All these things that you are taught not to discriminate against in your daily duties. Where is your line in the sand?
Victoria. If Daniel Andrews wanted an extension to the current state of emergency powers, he could have easily written a less offensive bill amendment to achieve that. This bill allows Daniel Andrews to enact and enforce discrimination, lockdowns, shutdowns and restrictions for public safety, even when there are 0 cases of COVID in the state. It is entirely incompatible with basic human rights. During the pandemic, when it is necessary to restrict all of their basic liberties, the restrictions must be proportionate and necessary to manage the risk, and they must be the minimum necessary to achieve public health aims. Daniel Andrews says that we will go beyond 90% double vaccination rates in Victoria. He also says that vaccination and serious illness from COVID. So why does he need more powers to protect us when he claims it's achieved through vaccination? Locking people up who are not vaccinated and not even infected is a disproportionate measure, but it's one that Daniel Andrews wants as a power because he says that unvaccinated people are taking up beds in hospitals that would otherwise be used by people suffering heart attacks and other illnesses. If this was about people's health and managing an overburdened health system that he let go to the wolves, why not lock up the smokers, the drug users and the alcoholics? You know, for their health and well-being, and to reduce their impost on our health system. That's right, especially given that AOD stats between 2017 and 18 said that 72,190 hospital admissions were directly related to alcohol consumption. But to quote Daniel Andrews, we will not play those games because we don't discriminate against personal choices of people. Yet he wants the ability to discriminate not only against your personal choices when it comes to vaccination, but also against your attributes that are protected under the Equal Opportunity Act. We have seen how this pandemic response has played out, mandate after mandate, rule and directions followed by heavy-handed police response to meter out punishments to those who dare disobey. This will not change, but will in fact get far worse and become the most undemocratic, arbitrary, discriminatory act of our time. A big part of why I left the police force is because I saw the path the government was leading us down. The show us your papers path, the discrimination by exclusion path, and at the helm of these enforcements would be me and other police officers. I choose to stand on the right side of history, and I refuse to stay a part of an organisation that will willingly reach its own oath of office, its own code of ethics, its own organisational values, to be the obedient slave to Daniel Andrews' discriminatory laws. This bill will be enforced by police. State-sanctioned overt discrimination linked to criminal outcomes by way of arrest, detainment and court procedures. Not because a person committed a crime, a rape, an assault, family violence or robbing a person in the street, but because Daniel Andrews will have the ability to use the powers of this bill to discriminate against your religious beliefs, your political affiliations, your age, sex and gender. And there doesn't have to be a single case of COVID in Victoria for him to direct Victoria Police to enforce them. Gives him the power to have someone jailed for 2 years if they breach a rule under this new act. I know rapists and child abusers who have received less jail time for their crimes. This is abhorrent and wrong, and every single Victorian who cares about justice, fairness, equality and human rights ought to be outraged and disgusted at this Labor government power grab. Daniel Andrews obnoxiously disregarded the open letter written by 14 Queen's Council barristers, which has grown to some 25 senior legal fraternity lawyers that have said on record that this bill is egregious to democracy. He's not interested in their opinion. He says, let the upper house decide. The upper house, where he's already done his backdoor dealings, preference swapping agreements and single-issue party decisions with the likes of Patton, Medic and Ratnam. He hasn't consulted the upper house in its entirety, and he doesn't care about the upper house's opinions. He only cares about getting his power grab and working with the people who will give it to him. Daniel Andrews is right when he says that this bill builds on New Zealand and New South Wales legislation. It builds all right. It's built in a new Berlin Wall on the foundation of division, discrimination and a massive power grab. Victoria, stand up. Your Berlin Wall has had the first bricks laid when the lower house moved this overzealous bill through its doors and into the upper house, where they will lay the last bricks of tyranny. When it is completed, it will be the police who will be the sentry guards atop that wall of tyranny, enforcing segregation. The Premier and the Health Minister will have uncontested power to indefinitely keep Victorians in lockdown, and Victoria Police will be at the forefront of that enforcement. The relationship between community and police is already at an all-time low. 76% of Victorians thought very highly of Victoria Police in 2017, but by the state's lockdown, that fell to 42%. Well less than half of all Victorians have faith in Victoria Police right now, and who can blame them? With this new bill, Victoria Police will become the protection squad of the Daniel Andrews administration. To my ex-colleagues, I say to you, at what point will you push back? Don't enforce fines to businesses that are already struggling who are choosing not to discriminate. Don't issue fines you know in your heart are morally wrong. I know a great many of you already are, and I and the community thank you for that. For those who are unsure, remember the law, remember your training. If you are directed by a superior to issue a ticket, obey the direction and write it out, but hand it to them to sign. Let them be the ones to put their name, rank and number on that ticket. Let them be the ones to own the responsibility for the ticket and the inevitable court procedure, and see how many will do it. They cannot force you to sign that ticket. You and you alone have the choice of discretion, so use it. You didn't join this job to treat the Victorian community like this. I know you didn't. So just don't. Do not participate in state-sanctioned discrimination. Where is your line in the sand? The blue flu is real, guys, and you can use it any time. Make use of it. Stay strong, Victoria. We may have another 12 months of this but there will be a political revolution come November 2022, where the minority parties that stand for democracy, liberty and freedom will prevail. I know it. You know it. Daniel Andrews knows it. We are coming.
I'm actually facing the west and I'm up high. I'd first like to acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands and through them to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people past and present. So I also like to just say that I'm wearing white today for all those people who are holding the line. And I've said before that I normally wear purple because when you mix red and blue together, which is Labor and Liberal, you get purple. But today it's white for everyone who's holding the line. I'm a little visual person because I'm a big raving dyslexic, but don't you worry, I can speed read. So this is what the Public and Health and Wellbeing Act looks like, the current Act. It's 2008 and it's a wonderful Act. And that's what all the doctors and nurses have been working under for a very long time, as well as local government. It is wonderful, and this is fine. This is the pandemic bill. Throw it through the shredder. And this is what it looks like when you mix this and that together. That's it. That's what it looks like. So I can assure you, like other speakers here today, no one in the non-government, which is the crossbench, have been consulted about what's in this bill. So I've had a good read, and you should all be scared, because this is fine. This is absolutely fine, and this is something that 100% you are all going to be concerned in the way of your own choices. You're not scared. That's good to hear. Amen to that. But what also the other speakers have actually said, which is rightly so, the Labor Party who are in the upper house, they have some choices. They can cross the floor, because this is rubbish. This is complete and utter rubbish. But we can also try to amend it. And I can show you, if anyone tries to amend this, the only reason we're doing it is so we can actually pull it apart to show all its faults. But what I can also assure you, like I think the first speaker said, is that the vast majority of those people in the upper house in the Labor Party would not have read it. They will be given a script to read from. And there's probably only a handful of them, of those 18 up there, that would have read it the way that I've read it. And that's what independents do. So I was at the rally the other day, and from the rally I drove up to Geelong. And it was wonderful up to Geelong, apart from when the rain was actually wonderful. But one of the things that happened to me while I was up in Geelong, after I had given my speech, someone was yelling out, "Doctor, doctor, doctor." I ran over towards the crowd because I thought I had to administer a first aid. I found a woman there on the ground, and I thought I was actually attending somebody who had an epileptic fit. She was covered in sweat, but she told me her name. I asked her if she was an epileptic. She said no. She said she had the Pfizer vaccine 3 weeks ago, and she's now vaccine damaged. So, one of many. And for myself, there was another nurse that attended to for first aid purposes, and over the afternoon I observed her, and it was clear to me what has happened in the way of her nervous system. Now, I have had, like all of you here today, who don't want a divided community, who want people to be able to have personal choices, but we also cannot forget the people who have been damaged from this vaccine and have had adverse reactions. And to think that there's only a small amount of people who have either had small side effects or the more severe side effects, and there are other people who are mocking them at this time, trying to actually downplay what is going on for them. Now, I can assure you in the future, the project and other ones that are in mainstream media, you are going to be having vaccine damaged charity for all the people who have been vaccine damaged. You are more than happy to have a charity for epilepsy, for MS, for all the other diseases and conditions that people may have, but I can assure you what I've witnessed with my own 2 eyes and what a lot of nurses have witnessed and doctors have witnessed in emergency services, in emergency departments, and the ambulance drivers and everyone else, it is real, completely real. So you might be lucky out there at the moment, the people who are vaccinated, who've only had some minor effects. But you cannot ignore the people who are damaged, who I have seen, and other professionals, doctors, nurses, emergency nurses, as well as allied family members, correct. And there are other people here who all know somebody who have had those reactions or have seen, and the milder ones, such as just lumps in their breast, bad periods or menstrual cycle. There are so many. The list goes on and on. So now you should be frightened. They want to vaccinate your children. There is no long-term data for their fertility and otherwise. Yeah, not correct. So I've been asked to keep on topic, which is this bill. And the topic of this bill is mandates and future mandates and losing your choices. The long-term effects we will not know. So for myself, I'm here for the small voices, the voiceless. And I can say I've never wanted to divide a community in my whole entire life. I live in the most beautiful area of Western Metropolitan. We're a wonderful multicultural community. And it breaks my heart to see us divided, to actually see this government feel that we can't have events outside. That small businesses can't actually find the staff due to their stupendous mandates. That's right. So I'll leave it there because there are other speakers. But we are here for you. Keep rallying every day. And we want everyone to have the choices. Thank you. Like this, which I organise, are only possible because of people like you. My platform and everything that I have is literally only possible because of people that are here today. And for that I say thank you, because now we have an opportunity to inform more people. So what I wanted to cover is probably a little bit more of the nuance than what's been going through some of the other speeches. So the government says that this bill, which will be voted on in the upper house next week, is an improvement on the emergency powers. Now, they're actually right, because by definition in an emergency they can do whatever they want. So it's not exactly a high bar to overcome. You could do just about anything and it's an improvement on you can do whatever you want. Now, another thing that they've come out and said is, it's like New South Wales. It has oversight. No, it doesn't. Not the same way as New South Wales. And interestingly enough, this is just not really getting mentioned. The thing I think though that concerns me the most is that they will get up there and say that. You have Fiona, and you have Samantha, and you have Andy all getting up and saying, no, it's better. It's like New South Wales. But it's not. And it makes you wonder, are you so incompetent that you haven't read the bill? Or are you lying?
think we're all pretty comfortable with the fact that neither of those options are really good.
The thing that's been touched on a number of times today is the fact that there is a clause, and this is indefensible. There is a clause that says that mandates can be made based on attributes. They have taken the wording of the Equal Opportunity Act that is designed to protect citizens and used it as a clause in this bill to target them. Nothing like this exists anywhere else. On that basis alone, the idea that this bill is like others is a complete lie.
What many people also don't realise is they also added a clause after this that says that if they make mandates based on your attributes, such as your marital status, pregnancy, sexual orientation, disability, or anything else like that, it's not discrimination. So they made sure to protect themselves. Now, to anyone who thinks that this bill will not affect your life if you live in Victoria, it's at this point I would remind you that Daniel Andrews has been very clear that he intends to run a new school program next year. And the reason I say this is that by June next year, we're back at square one. By June next year, it will have been more than 6 months since we've hit the 90, 95% or whatever other target he's changed the national roadmap to, and we're back at square one. And he will have the power to make 2022 like 2021. Possibly worse. So this bill has a lot of problems. And the one thing that they're hiding behind is that there is a process to make sure nothing bad happens. So let's look at what that process is. They're hiding behind SARC, which is the Scrutiny of Acts and Regulations Committee. Not to make this boring, but basically they look at legislation and make sure it isn't bad. Now, that's the main mechanism for making sure what they do isn't bad. Kind of problematic that the government controls SARC. So SARC has only 7 members of all of Parliament, and 4 of them, including the chair, are Labor. If you want to know the biggest difference with New South Wales, their equivalent committee has 7 members or thereabouts. It's chaired by a non-government MP, and it does not have a government majority. So I don't know what they think is like New South Wales, but it sure ain't their checks and balances. They also added in a nice little clause that SARC, let's say for example, it magically recommends that the government should remove one of the pandemic orders. They have added a clause that must go through both houses of Parliament, not just one, both, where they hold the majority in the lower house. So to get past their first majority, you then have to get past their second majority to go past them. Somehow, I don't really think that's going to happen. We heard Adam Somyurek give testimony in IBAC this week. And I'm going to read out the quote that he said yesterday about his time in the Labor government. When we enter Parliament as Labor parliamentarians, we have to sign a pledge saying that even if we disagree with the policy, we have to vote with that policy, otherwise we get kicked out of the party. Now, that's not exactly democracy. So if you have a political party that has an ingrained ethos, you must sign an agreement that if you get elected, you will put the party before the people. Do you really expect them to hold themselves accountable? And it's at this point that we come to the letter from the QCs, which I'll just read out a couple of quick snippets. And I want to take a moment to point out that a QC is not a regular lawyer. They are the top of their game. And what most people don't realise is the only place up from a QC is a judge. These people are the
future beholders of our legal system. If they are coming out and saying this is a problem, they know what they're talking about, because it will be their future to help enforce laws like this or decide if they're relevant, and that is their concern. So from them, they have said that the directions are effectively unreviewable. They have said it is one thing to allow temporary rule by decree with an unforeseen and extraordinary emergency. It is something else altogether to entrench rule by decree as a long-term norm. There is no need to give the government of the day a blank check to rule by decree. And to that end, I would say, I think we're all aware that the crossbench 3, as they're often known, have basically turned off their emails and phones. But what I would say is their colleagues haven't. All of them, essentially, belong to political parties. Andy Medic belongs to the Animal Justice Party. They have head offices. They have other MPs. The Greens have head offices. They have other MPs. If they wish to stand beside their colleague to pass something like this through, they should have to defend it as well. So I'm going to leave it there on that note, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who came today, and thank you to everyone who will no doubt watch this online and share it. It's information like this that I think is really important, that people understand what is going on here and what it means for our state. So thank you, everyone.